Have you ever noticed that when you try to enjoy a taste of paradise away from your family, it turns out it's not as fun as you thought it would be? Well, that's what Lincoln found out in the episode I'm going to talk about today. So join me as I, Steam Team Read Up UK, CC Trainer Ling, bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. Cue the intro! Today's episode is Link or Swim. In this episode, Lincoln buys a one-person kiddie pool, but he can't enjoy his paradise for one when all 10 of his sisters start using it for themselves. This episode is kinda boring and underwhelming in my opinion. Nothing truly noteworthy happens in the story, and parts of the episode feel like they drag on forever. One of these instances was during the sequence where Lincoln tries to put his pool together and keeps getting screwed in the process. Although there was this one funny bit where he turns the pool into a unicorn and gets thrown off it, and it makes the sound of a horse when it happens. The other dragged out moment was when he was sitting alone in the pool after finally growing fed up with his sisters interfering in what he had planned and thus kicking them out. This moment of loneliness I'm a little more lenient towards because I understood the idea of what the scene was going for. Lincoln realized his paradise for one wasn't really paradise because he had no one to share it with despite the fact he originally bought it for only himself. In his defense, it was only big enough for one person, hence the phrase paradise for one, and the one it was intended for never got the chance to enjoy it, and he only bought it because a few of his sisters were responsible for getting everyone kicked out of every public swimming pool. But because they had their own pool, the girls knew they couldn't be kicked out of it, and therefore continued their rule-breaking habits in the backyard, which effectively had Lincoln adopting the same attitude as the public pool lifeguards. Still, despite them never having a moment of reflection on why Lincoln got mad at them in the first place, and then throwing a few insults when referring to how he treated them, even though Lincoln's reactions to their behavior were technically justified, they were kind enough to let him join them in the much larger inflatable pool they bought, the same one Lincoln fantasized about wanting all along but couldn't afford to buy it on his own. Then again, the same fantasy had him worrying his sisters were going to ruin that experience as well. The only other thing I will say about the girls is that in their defense, they weren't trying to agitate Lincoln or any of the public pool goers just for the sake of creating conflict. They wanted to cool off on a hot summer day like everyone else, and to quote a few of the girls, they were just having fun. Some of their ways of having a good time were definitely strange, like Lana trying to turn the water into chicken noodle soup, but some of the girls like Lori and Lenny were at least mature and casual enough to just relax on inflatable rafts, and Lynn wanting to have a chicken fight isn't exactly a bad thing either. Still, Lincoln jumped into the large pool and destroyed it by doing a cannonball, something he also wasn't allowed to do with his paradise for one, and so he decided to share his kiddie pool with everyone even if it was way overcrowded. The last thing I want to mention are some minor on-screen visuals I did find a tad amusing. First, it was the shot of the old people who each bore a striking resemblance to other old-age Nicktoon characters. A complete list can be found on this episode's Wikia page. Then there's the part where Lucy thinks she's a witch because she's floating on water. And finally, take a good look at the goth child when she's sitting in the kiddie pool during the final scene. If you remember how Lisa placed a chemical in the water that would remove any and all urine from the pool, and how her sisters blushed when all the water instantly evaporated, it appears Lucy did that very embarrassing thing a second time. Well, hey, I guess it's not as bad as Lily's recurring fecal incidents, but it's still nasty. Overall, this episode doesn't really stand out too well for the first season. I have my complaints regarding parts of the story and some of the characters, and it feels like it drags on to the point where you kinda get bored watching it. However, the story does teach a good lesson, which would be it's more pleasurable to do things with your family instead of doing them alone. It's not executed as strongly as it could have been, but it's good enough. With that said, I give Link or Swim a 6.2 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Link or Swim. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is Steam Team Read Up UK, CC Trainer Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.